Sylvia Plath, Sally Rooney, the Bronte sisters, Meiko Kawakami, these women all have one thing in common. They write sad girl literature very well. Now, sad girl literature can mean so many things to so many people, and hey, that's the beauty of books, right? We could see a sad girl as someone as completely unhinged as the character in Mona Awad's All's Well, or someone that is weighed down by woe and tragedy like Ophelia in The Water. Either way, we all have our own like interpretation of sad girl literature. Mine is probably the same as most people. A sad girl for me can be mad, sad, or like a personification of all three. Is this genre in literature where the writer is totally like unafraid to venture into the dark side or the unpretty side of being a woman. And the books on this list, or the books that I'm about to mention on this video, perfectly encapture sad girl literature very well. I Who Have Never Known Men is a book by Jacqueline Harpman and translated exquisitely by Ross Schwartz. Now, you have probably heard of this book because a translated version has been making its rounds online and people have been raving about it, and that's for a very good reason. It is a great, and I mean, an absolutely amazing short story about survival and immortality and women banding together and forming a community. It's also a bit of a sci-fi story, but not like a full-blown sci-fi story. Again, it's sort of like a novella because it is a little shorter than your average novel. We start with a group of women who are trapped in a bunker. And we have this main narrator who has no memory of her past or a life before living in that bunker. The women who live around her are of different ages. And then like this series of events happen and the women are left to like survive on their own. At this point, the book sort of like shifts from this sci-fi slash mystery into this full-blown philosophical outlook into our own immortality. So a lot of things can get almost like frustratingly open-ended, but I think that was the whole point of the book. The point of the book is like not to give answers, but to give us an inside look into our own like humanity instead. The book asks us a lot of different profound questions. For example, how do us humans survive or thrive in the middle of a crisis? How do we find the will to go on when all hope seems lost? How do we cope with our own mortality when we are surrounded by death? And also, how do we come to terms with the limited time we have on this earth and our hunt for answers? So yes, themes like purpose, community, and the unflinching human spirit, that's all explored in this book. Although it's a totally different story, right? I could sort of like relate it to the anime Frieren. Frieren is this elf who gets to live like so many years on earth, like way longer than humans, and she always seems to question like how do humans deal with the passage of time and how quick time is for as humans beings compared to her. She has all the time in the world to seek answers and to like close doors or close chapters in her life, while us humans we sometimes find ourselves moving at a superhuman speed just to get closure. So although the themes are very different, the stories are very different. Think of it something like that. I can make a full video or discuss with so many people on Reddit about my theories about this book, but I think that's both like the beauty and madness of the story. Like we will never really get all the answers that we seek for, and like the narrator, we will just have to like make the most of our limited time on this earth. But yes, if you want to read a good post-apocalyptic book, or you want to read a book that will get you out of a reading slump, then I definitely recommend I Who Have Never Known Men. Believe the hype, guys. It's really good. Now let's talk about Thirst for Salt by Madeline Lucas, a book that I really do have to thank like BookTweet for because it just suddenly came into my radar thanks to BookTweet. And just a little bit of a segue, if you want to survive the cesspool that is Twitter, train your algorithm so you're like recommended only the things that you want to see, and don't ever hesitate about using that mute or muted words function, or just go ahead and straight up like block people. Because like the BookTweet community, they really do have really good recommendations recommendations, and so far most of the books that the general public really like have pushed towards the algorithm, pushed up the algorithm, they really did turn out well. So this is another one of them. I Who Have Never Known Man is another. As you could imagine, their age gap fully displays the power struggle between them two. Although their relationship is very passionate and it goes on to fully consume our unnamed narrator, it's also evident to us as a reader that she is in the relationship for all the wrong reasons. I mean, she packs her life in the city and gives up her dreams of going abroad to live with this much older man named Jude. She does this with the mentality that one day, Jude, the solitary man who lives by the sea, the solitary bachelor who lives by the sea, would one day belong to her and her only. And ladies, I know that some of us have been super guilty about that. Like, we've done that probably in our lives. I mean, like, hindsight 2020, or I'm sure like more than one of us have been in that situation wherein you would look back into the relationship and think like, what was I thinking trying to fix this man child? And you know, we all know that's not how love thrives. You cannot be in love with the idea of someone. So basically, early on, girl, we know that it isn't gonna work out. Now, aside from the fact that this is a great story, or a great cautionary tale about not getting into a relationship with an older, emotionally unavailable man when your frontal lobe isn't fully developed, this is also a great story about discovering yourself. And I love how everything was really like grounded in reality. How we also get like a glimpse of the narrator when she grows older and she looks back in their relationship. Although she pines for it and she mourns the love that she once shared with Jude, she also comes to terms into like thinking that this was like yet another phase of her life, and all she allows herself to feel that anger, she allows herself to feel that loss. This book was truly like a feast for the senses. I truly appreciated how Madeline Lucas went with the unnamed narrator route. If you watch my video on like Love in the Big City, I did give a comment there that the book felt like it was a friend narrating or recounting their experiences in love and life. And that's the exact feeling that I got when I was reading Thirst for Salt. The book truly felt authentic, so I really have to commend Madeline Lucas for that. Again, it's like a friend recounting their memories of a year-long passionate love affair. And most of all, it also shows us how women are shaped by love and relationships. And I can't recommend it enough. Now, Winter in Sokcho is another sad girl book that I really, really did love. It's very similar to Thirst for Salt in a way that it talks about a very young woman that falls in love or gets into like this complicated relationship with a much older man. I don't think that I liked what that says about me, but here we are. Anyway, like Thirst for Salt, this book is set in a city that's far from the biggest city in that country, if you get what I mean. And like Thirst for Salt, at the center of this book is another young woman that is feeling lost, lonely, and worrying about the future that she may or may not end up having. So a little bit about Sokcho. Sokcho is this city in South Korea. Like many countries, many people or many of the youth actually move away from, cities like Sokcho to move to Seoul or Busan because there are better job opportunities and just like better employment and job opportunities basically. But because of something that happens with her mother, our narrator does the exact opposite. She moves out of Sokcho and then finds herself back to Sokcho and goes on to find employment at this rundown hotel. Her life basically feels like she hits like this wall. Then this mysterious Frenchman shows up. Now, I do see like this recurring theme between Thirst for Salt and Winter in Sokcho. I'm no psychologist, but it's almost like these women were trying to find like a paternal figure in their lives. Whereas the woman in Thirst for Salt was raised by a single mother and didn't have any memory of her father, the woman in Winter in Sokcho, who is also an unnamed narrator, narrator, by the way, has a vague memory of her own father, a Frenchman who left his family when she was very young. In both cases, growing up fatherless seemed to have like this impact on how they view love and relationships. And while I don't necessarily agree with this, fathers are generally seen as like this foundation for families. They provide some sort of stability and security, and yeah, basically like a foundation. So yes, when this Frenchman comes to town or comes to the city of Sokcho and stays over at their hotel, our narrator is almost enchanted, and she feels super attracted and intrigued over his maturity and the fact that he's gone so far in life. And it's not just about like the novelty of meeting someone from another culture or interacting with an older, more experienced man. It's more about allowing her to see what she's been like missing her whole life, and that's to be seen and to feel validated. She goes through all these like great lengths to make him feel welcome, and there are even passages in the book in which she feels a little bit disappointed that he doesn't come out of his room to taste what she had been cooking. All of these nuances and everything in her life were so vividly portrayed that I could almost see through her lenses, and I could see the city of Sokcho as this gray and blue filter. While I don't think that this book will resonate with everyone, especially given its abrupt ending, it remains to be one of my favorites. I deeply connected with the narrator's feeling of being stuck and the sacrifices that she had to make for family. Maybe like how meeting somebody else from a totally different world had entranced her and like seduced her in, and like how much she compared herself to others. I think it's really all very relatable to us women. And I also think one of the biggest strength in this book is the fact that it is set in Sokcho. And honestly, Alyssa Shua Dusapin, the author of this book, she wrote it very vividly, for lack of a better term, because I seem to have a little, like a PMS brain fog right now. But her writing really does make me want to visit Sokcho one day. Now let's talk about a book that I very recently finished, and that's They're Going to Love You by Meg HOWRY. I am head over heels in love with this book. I know, that's a direct reference to the title. It's really given me the same feeling that I had after reading The Racial Incident last year. The best way to put this book in a nutshell is that it is a ballet slash family drama that's set in different periods, but the main or the gist of the story is set at the backdrop of the AIDS crisis in New York City. At the center of it all is Carlisle. When we meet her in like the first chapter, she's an older adult and hasn't spoken to her father in like years. And speaking of that, this book is really like a touching story that really captures what it feels like to be an adult. Now that I am a legitimate adult, I think. There are moments in my life that I do mourn what could have been, and that's a theme that's so heavily explored in this book. How we as adults reckon with the broken dreams or the unachieved dreams of our youth. But of course, it's not all just like inner conflict. As I mentioned earlier, at the center of this book is this big family drama between Carlisle and her father. As we learn more about Carlisle, we discover that she is a child of a broken family, and her father goes on to remarry. He and his husband live in this glamorous street in New York City, and they live a life of dance, ballet, classical music, and of course that's often associated with luxury and class, right? We can't blame Carlisle because as a young woman, she just strives so hard to be part of their world. And as much as she tries to be a part of that world, she literally and figuratively cannot find her footing. And then like this super big dramatic thing happens, and us as a reader, when we read it like happen, we think like this is a very small family drama. Why are they fighting like for decades about this? Why can't they just communicate things over? Like sometimes those things are very easier said than done when it comes to family dramas, things usually get like blown out of proportion, and I totally got that, and that felt super relatable as well. Anyway, this rift between them happens, and it's mostly between Carlisle and her father. They said some things that were hurtful, and they stopped speaking for like 19 years. She finds herself completely shut out of the world she really tries to like fit into, which is his world of ballet and dance or whatever, and they only get to reconnect as he edges towards the end of his life, ironically. They're Going to Love You is equal parts moving, elegant, and complex, as it also allows us to ask ourselves, is there really a limit or an age limit to asking our parents or seeking our parents' approval? And most importantly, is there an age limit to reaching our dreams? I really didn't want this book to end. This is my first Meg HOWRY book, and she is such an amazing writer. There's so many quotable passages in this book that I just want to highlight on the screen right now. And overall, she just made this whole experience, like reading experience, worth it. So yes, this is another book that I totally would recommend. And if you are in a reading slump, this will definitely get you out of it. Go pick it up. It will be worth your time. I promise. So that's my picks for sad girl literature. Obviously, I'll probably like do a part 2 in the future, but I wanted to leave like this list quite concise because I don't want you guys listening to me babble for hours. And a big thanks to all of you if like you reached this far, and if you do have some book recommendations for me or any list that you want me to do, please let me know, and I'll love to make a video out of it. Thank you for watching. Bye, and be happy, don't be sad, girl.